A local domestic shop decided they would try their hand at a Mercedes Benz, and they had to throw in the towel and call Omega. Let's find out what's wrong with this E320. Let's get started. This is a 2002 Mercedes-Benz E320. It's a W210 chassis. And as you can see, all four windows are down. The customer told this other shop they were driving around, all four windows went down all at the same time. They refused to go back up or do anything. They are stuck down. And in this cooler weather we're having, it's not very comfortable to drive this car around. The owner of that shop, I kind of know him, he called and said, "Wizard, can you please help? I've tried everything. I don't know what's wrong with this. This is not what we work on. I thought I'd give it a shot, and it is, I don't understand this." I said, "Yes, we'd be happy to take it on." Danielson jumped into this thing, and he got to the bottom of it. Before we dive in, what is wrong with these windows? Let's take a look around this E320. One thing you'll see with this E320 is it is kind of dirty. This customer lives in a rural, small town, and it has been muddy and kind of yucky since we've had some heavy snow and it's all melting away. The headlights are pretty fogged on this one as well. As we go down the side, this is the older E-Class of the early 2000s. They were actually pretty decent cars, but this one, as you can see, it's got a lot of dirt and dust on it from driving on the roads. And around the back we can see it's an E320. It is the 4MATIC version, which means it's all-wheel drive. It's equally nice down this side. It is dirty, but otherwise it doesn't seem to be rusted or beat up or anything. Let's go ahead and hop into the interior.
Glad you're with me today. 219,848 miles. Yikes. That's quite a few miles on here, but she's still going strong. You can see it's 67 degrees in the shop, which means it's about 40 or 50 degrees outside, so I can see why they want their windows up. But as we zoom out, we'll see that the dash is in okay shape. A little dusty. I mean, this thing does need a good trip through the car wash, but all of our wood is in good shape. The lacquer's not broken. As we look at our center section, you'll see that the lacquer is still in great shape, not broken or chipped or anything. But again, our standard Mercedes controls there with our standard Mercedes radio. As we open up this little spot here, you can see that they have added a Kenwood series unit to the car as well. But as we move around, we've got some sunglasses and lip gloss, you know, everything you need in a car. But this is where some of the problem, I think, lies. Yikes. But it's looking good for what we do see there. As we look at our seats, they are a tan leather and they're in good shape. I don't see any breaks or tears, but they do have some more personal items on there, which includes a 100-foot tape measure. Good for them. At our store card, we see that the wood is again in great shape, but we're starting to see a little bit of wear on that door handle, which is logical with 215,000 miles on the car. And we get to the back seat, everything is looking good until we get to the bottom section, which they have removed the lower half of the seat. There you go. You can see what it looks like underneath the lower half of that back seat. And here is that back seat itself, gently set off to the side. Do have some wear up there on that steering wheel, which again, I can totally understand with the number of miles on this car, but everything's looking good. The buttons are looking great. They are not scratched off, anything like that. So enough of this interior talk. Let's get under the hood and see what's going on.
Here we have an AMSOIL sticker. I'm not sure if it currently has AMSOIL in it, but this is the E320. This is a 3.2 liter V6 with 220 horsepower roughly, and roughly 230 pound-feet of torque. They get about 20 to 25 miles per gallon, depending on if it's city or highway. Pretty good engines, pretty reliable. And as you can see, you see some wiring exposed. We have that cover off to dive in to figure out what was wrong with this window situation. Well, we know it has a window issue. All four of them are down, but it's not just like one motor went bad or something. All four of them together went down, all the way down. Occasionally they'll come up a little ways and then they'll go back down. So we know the motors are working. It's very unlikely all four failed at the same time. This one took a little bit more diving into to figure out what's wrong. And luckily, as opposed to the shop that tried to work on this the first time, we have OEM Mercedes Star Diagnostics here. Let's take a look at that. We've actually had this Star Diagnostics, I think it's the C4 version, for a long time. This is actually Hoovie's Garage Star Diagnostics. This is back in his dealership days when he had one. And, well, I say it's Hoovie's. I purchased it from him, but it came from Hoovie's Garage. This is a lot of the equipment that he used back in the day. I've updated the software, I've updated the multiplexer and a few things, and so it can keep current with more newer models, but it can do 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, it can go quite a big range, and it definitely helped in this situation. One thing that happens with a lot of domestic or Asian mechanic shops is they go to diagnose the car, plug in the scan tool underneath the dash with our OBD2 connector and try to access all the modules. That works great on a Chevrolet or a Jeep. It does not work good on a European car, especially a Mercedes Benz. If you really want to dive into all the modules, the SAM, which is the signal acquisition module, there's tons of modules on Mercedes Benzes. They're very tech heavy. If you want to dive into those, you're not going to do it under the dash with the OBD2 connector. You're not. Let me show you where you go to dive into those. Under the hood in the fuse box. You're like, what? There's no connector there. Oh yes there is. Right there. I believe it's a 38 pin. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is the diagnostic port for truly diving deep into a Mercedes Benz, which this happens to fit off of the multiplexer here. So you plug it into the connector here, twist it, lock it. Look, it lights up. Device is booting, it says. So that's how you dive in deep into a Mercedes Benz. But before we got into this point, Danielson went through and checked fuses, checked wiring. As you can see, he had some things apart over there to make sure there's no mice that got in here and chewed wires or something really weird happened. After he checked all that, it was time to dive in with this tool right here. So using Star Diagnostics, Daniel was able to go in and scan all the different modules. He found several reporting low voltage and some other issues, but it was nothing that would cause any concern with all windows going down all at the same time. Then he went into the module that controls specifically the windows and things and found there's a lot of codes for failed switches. Something was wrong with the actual window switches. Now he has a direction to go. There's so many different modules on these Mercedes Benzes, it could be anything. That really helped us to narrow it down from multiple different items to one solid hit. Let's take a look in the interior. So if you were a nice person and watched Mrs. Wizard's interior review and not rude, you would have actually seen this is all apart here, and this is where the window switches go. They're right here, two on this side, two on this side, and there's the trunk release and various other LEDs and things. And there's circuitry that's inside of here, which we're going to show you here in a minute. But everything that was found with codes was related to a module or circuit board that sits right here by the shifter. We knew we didn't need to go into the doors themselves with the motors and the door control modules and everything like that. There was no codes there, and we know they work. Occasionally they will go up and down and do weird things. Most of the time they stay down. But the codes are right there by the shifter with the switches themselves. Let's go take a look at that. So when Daniel started looking into this, he noticed around this mirror switch, it looks like possible a drink was spilled, coffee, and you can see staining right here. You can actually feel the staining going on. Something was spilled in this area. It looks like just switches. It's like, well, there's nothing there, but there actually is if you remove the bezel. It's this little unit here. It's not just switches and wires and that's it. There's more to it than that. We started to see even more staining. It looks like dried coffee down underneath this trunk switch. So we're already worried something very, very drastically could be damaged. Luckily, it wasn't anything super serious, but we now know something was spilled into the window switches. And we combine that with the fact we saw codes with the Star Diagnostics for failures in the window switches. You put the two and two together, it's like a cloud. It's a poof, oh, there it is. I bet there's something wrong in there. So let's take a look inside the switches. Turn it over here, remove the bottom plastic piece. You see that it's not just dumb switches and wires. There's circuitry and chips and things in here. Look at that, guys. There's corrosion. There. All these circuits have been compromised and short-circuited. It's so bad, in fact, that it leaked out on the bottom cover here. This is severe electronic corrosion. It's maybe like a capacitor failed and blew up and short-circuited or something. Let's take a look. Pull off the top of the switch. And let's see here. Oh my goodness, guys. It looks like a nuclear wasteland. There's tons of resistors and capacitors and all kinds of things that have had total short circuit meltdown. Even on this IC chip, it's severely corroded, even the little legs on it. Now, we have no trouble with this customer, but I've actually had in the past customers where we say a drink was spilled, it's short-circuited the circuit, and they get defensive. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. It's like, whoa, 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 guy. We didn't say who did it. We're not trying to point the fingers. We just say a drink was spilled. I don't care who did it or when it happened. It's evident. Someone spilled a drink. Why are you fighting me? I don't know. I don't know why we've had that fight, but we have. We didn't have that trouble with this customer. But I went to order one of these. Several suppliers have you can buy just this. But this one's a real special case because it has two options that are not easily available. Number one, trunk release. All the ones that I can find available say does not have trunk release, does not have child airbag LED light. So this is missing and this is missing. I went through 3 or 4 different suppliers. Normally this is 50, 60 bucks just to get that little circuit board and be back in business. They said we have these, we have tons of them, but not for the trunk switch and the child airbag light. I finally found a supplier that has the correct setup with the airbag LED light and the trunk release switch and matching part numbers. Exactly the one I need. And he knew what he had. I said, what are those, 60 bucks, maybe 80 bucks? He said, oh, no, 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 no. He says, I used to have 3 of these in stock. I have one left. It's $200. Take it or leave it. No negotiations. Fine. I purchased it. I bought it. It's actually ordered and it's on its way. The customer has approved the repair. Daniel has an hour trying to figure out what's wrong with this thing. And we have an hour taking this all apart. So it's not a simple situation that's fixed for 50 bucks or 100 bucks. It's going to be several hundred. Luckily, the customer was like, I understand, but I don't want to drive around with my windows down all the time. I can't do that. Let's get it fixed. So part is on order. So now we know what is wrong with this car, why all 4 windows went down and pretty much stay down all the time, because some liquids were spilled on the window switches, the little circuit board, and you saw with your own eyes, it basically caused a nuclear meltdown on the whole circuit board. This is one of those situations at a domestic Asian shop, you know, someone calls them and says, I got a Mercedes, you want to chance it, you want to try? Oh yeah, you know, a car is a car. It's pretty easy, I mean, I can fix that. And then it shows up, they spend 2 or 3 days on it, and they're like, I don't know, my scan tool won't talk with those modules. That's correct, it won't. Not without the proper connection under the hood, not under the dash. There are aftermarket scan tools can also connect under the hood. Our Autel can also do it, but we have Star Diagnostics, why not use it? And it was a champ. It was able to narrow it down pretty quickly. Some of the other things that could have been is there's other control modules that are involved with the power windows. They could have failed. There could have been some internal circuitry failure there. Luckily, it wasn't something majorly expensive. And like I said, it wasn't an individual window motor because they all 4 are doing it all at the same time. One reason why Daniel was under the hood checking everything out, because we see it's a rural vehicle that lives in a small rural town. It's possible that mice could have gotten under the hood and chewed wires or short circuits and made this thing go wacko. That's some time we have spent into it as well, making sure that wasn't the case. So, part is on order. Once we get that hooked in, all the windows will work independently again because they won't have coffee on the circuit board. That is kind of a bad way. I've seen several makes and models of different cars where they put all the circuitry and window switches right there by the shifter. That's right where people can spill things. I've seen that multiple times. If you have a car like that, you might want to be cognizant of that. Make sure you don't spill any liquids in your center console area. Most new automakers pack a lot of electronics in the center console. There can be airbag modules, there can be window control modules, there can be ECUs, there can be USB ports, all kinds of different things that can short circuit and cause a lot of trouble, all from your 99-cent coffee you got at the gas station. And it turns your 99-cent coffee into a multi-$100 repair. If you're curious what kind of tools we use here in the shop, A lot of them are listed for sale on our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. If you purchase anything there, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because we have so many more videos in the shop coming down the pike for you guys that you're going to really enjoy. Thanks for watching.